What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Thursday Night Football Showdown, Breakdown, Preview, whatever you want to call it. I'm your host, Christian Hardy, at ByHardy on Twitter. I'm with Adi Narang, at ReallyAdi on Twitter. We are from LocksDFS.com. That is the lone sponsor of our Showdown podcast video. Go check us out, LocksDFS.com. That is where we post our content. That's where we'll post our player grades, analysis, whatever it is, all the stuff that we do. LocksDFS.com. For all that. But, so before we start all this, wanted to remind you guys, of course, per usual, to comment on this video. You'll have a chance to win a free NBA, NFL, or college football season pass from LocksDFS.com. And we announce the winner on this podcast every single week, or this video podcast, whatever you want to call it, every single week. And Adi has the winner.
Yep. So the winner for last week's giveaway is going to be Michael Mockabee. Left a cool comment underneath my Addy's Action video last week. We really appreciate it, talking about how you're going to play O.J. Howard, how you're already on him as well. So appreciate that. Go ahead and
Bobby Anderson, cover boy.
Yeah, dude, how off was that? Like, dude, I mean, I played him in every lineup. Like, I had 100% Robbie Anderson. And just like,
every lineup, he plays one lineup.
Yeah, I played one lineup. I had 100% exposure to Robbie Anderson. But no, 100% Robbie Anderson. And but I cast. Why did I cast again? Well, who did I have? O.J. Howard, and who did well for me? NFL last week. I'm spacing.
What were the afternoon games? Why are we blanking on this? Did you have Lamar?
Oh, Pat Mahomes. I had, what week was that, man? Fucking.
But who you didn't have anyone else in that game, did you?
I had Golden Tate, big.
Yeah, Tate was big. You faded Kirk though.
Faded Kirk and cashed. Kind of like today, man. Faded Terry Rozier and cashed. Shout out JaVale McGee.
Shout out JaVale McGee and Fred VanVleet, bro. You keep on just passing to Fred VanVleet, but he came through too.
Dude, oh yeah, for sure.
Wichita State, go Shockers.
Yes, sir. But wait, Michael Mockabee. DM us at LocksDFS on Twitter, or you can DM me at ReallyAdi, and I'll set you up with a NFL or NBA season pass, whatever you choose. All up to you. Appreciate your support, and let's get into the slate.
Cool. Yeah. So, do you have the total pulled up?
Yeah, it opened at 40.5 and is 63% of bets on the over is sitting now at 41.5. So pretty low total overall. Both teams are up half a point. Not a lot of spread movement. 59% of bets on the Steelers. They're +3 and they're still +3. So not a lot of change so far.
We really start all these showdown videos a little bit differently usually. But I think a good way to talk about this one, because I think it really plays in the slate a lot, is just how you think this game is going to go, because it, you just said the total is at, what did you say, 40.5. It's a divisional game. Obviously Thursday night tends to go lower scoring. How do you think, how do you see this game kind of playing out? And we talked about it before getting on the video too, was just, we think that even the Steelers +3 seems like a pretty good bet in this game. What's kind of your take on the game, and how do you see it playing out?
Yeah, so when I first looked at this slate, I thought that it would be and I still, I think this game could go in a variety of ways, but I think the most straightforward and obvious way is going to be like low scoring, a lot of run plays. That's why I think Steelers +3 is a good bet, just because you don't really see the Cleveland Browns blowing anyone out, let alone on a Thursday night divisional game. And the Steelers have been playing well, and they're getting James Conner back. But I think that's the first way I see this game going. But I think the Browns with Kareem Hunt back are kind of trying to throw the ball a little bit more. I mean, they let a Baker Mayfield drop back 38 times last game, which is, I believe, his second highest dropbacks all season. I mean, he dropped back 42 times versus Denver when they were trailing majority of the game, but 38 times matches his week one game where he went 25 of 38 as well. And I think that has a majority to do with Kareem Hunt being back in the lineup. I mean, they wanted to get him involved. They lined him up everywhere. They lined him up at wide receiver for some snaps, at slot receiver. They lined him up at running back and fullback. He had 9 targets. They wanted to force feed the ball to Baker Mayfield. He had 12 targets. Jarvis Landry had double-digit targets again. So I do think we could see Cleveland sort of spread this out a little bit more and look to pass the ball. And this Pittsburgh secondary has been playing really well, but I don't mind some of these matchups for guys like Odell or guys like Kareem Hunt. even Jarvis Landry. And then I think on the Pittsburgh side of it, I think they're going to do what they can to establish the ground game now that they're getting James Conner back. But we know that they're not opposed to letting Mason Rudolph sling it either. I mean, he dropped back 38 times a game, 35 the week before, 36 the week prior. And these are all in games that weren't like, Pittsburgh was leading majority of this game versus the Rams. They're up like 14-7 for majority of that game. I think we see both these quarterbacks throw the ball a decent amount of time. So I'm definitely not shying away from any of these receivers or anything like that.
Big game for Steelers fans versus the Rams. I mean, like, they played so many tight games this year, and to end up on the right side of a close game I'm sure was very sick for them. Their defense looks awesome. I think that's something that's also plays very big into the slate is how improved their defense looks, how gelled they're starting to look. They're starting to get more pressure on the quarterback. Their secondary is coming together a little bit better. We know that they use these fast linebackers to cover the slot receiver. That started to look a little bit better, and that might be a little bit to the credit of a safety like Fitzpatrick helping them out on that sort of thing. But okay, let's go ahead and get into some individual matchups here and talk about some individual plays now that we've talked about this. So we've already talked a little bit about we do expect Cleveland to probably throw the ball a little bit more than Pittsburgh, although they are 3-point favorites. Just in terms of Baker versus Mason and how the defense plays out, Pittsburgh has a very, very strong pass defense. They have a very strong defense as of now in general, but they are stronger against the run right now. I don't have the exact stats pulled up in front of me, but I do know that they are better against the run recently. They're going to create some pressure on Baker as well, which Baker obviously does not deal with pressure very well. But okay, let's go ahead and talk about some individual plays. We've got Connor at the top here coming back from injury. That's definitely someone that for me, even at the top of the captain range, is going to be interesting to me. Obviously, he has a passing role. Obviously, he has going to play probably somewhere between 70 to 80% of the snaps, I would think. Maybe not 80. That's a little bit high. 70 to 75% of the snaps. Is he someone that he's got to be probably in your top 3 captains for the slate, right?
Yeah, I think a real, direct I think a path of this game going is that Pittsburgh just dominates the ball, dominates time of possession with the run game, and then pins their ear back as far as the defensive line goes. I mean, these guys have the second highest adjusted sack rate in the league. Cleveland's got like the 20th ranked offensive line as far as adjusted sack rate in that sense. So it's definitely a way that this game goes. So if you're correlating in that direction, then yeah, James Conner is probably the top captain. My only real concern with him would be how good Jalen Samuels has been in his receiving role. Kind of has me a little bit concerned. Obviously, he's coming back from an injury, so I don't think he'll be limited in any way. I mean, he doesn't have any injury designation, and I believe he practiced fully. So I think I don't think he's going to have any sort of limitation, but if they do scale back his pass game work at all, that's a little bit of a knock on him at this price. But if you're correlating this game in the sense that Pittsburgh takes the lead, and you got some like Baker Mayfield and Cleveland pass catchers, then I think Connor captain is pretty obvious in that sense.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a great matchup too. I mean, 4.8 yards per carry. That's definitely ever since they got Denzel Ward and Greedy Williams back, these boundary cornerbacks at least, have been pretty shut down. And so I think, and obviously they have a really good pass rush as well. I mean, you can't ignore the Browns having like the 8th highest adjusted sack rate. They got Myles Garrett, Larry Ogunjobi. They got some beast pass rushers. This Pittsburgh offensive line is the top pass protecting offensive line in football.
That's super notable.
But, it's also a very good run blocking offensive line. So I think mitigating the pressure on Mason Rudolph will be pretty key for Pittsburgh to win this game. So running the ball is how you do that effectively. I think that makes sense. They're also giving up 5 receptions per game as well, which, James Conner will still have a passing game role. I just don't think it'll be as big as it might have previously been, like 8 and 7 targets. I don't think it'll be that big. But even 4 or 5 targets is very in play. And I mean, these guys are giving up 5 catches per game to running back. So definitely in play, definitely a good captain.
That's one reason why I like the Steelers so much, is just because in terms of both lines, defensive line versus the Cleveland offensive line, and then their offensive line versus Cleveland defensive line, they're winning both those battles. And when you think about Vegas lines in terms of those offensive lines versus defensive lines, and you have a team that's winning both sides as a dog, that's definitely favorable for them,
That's a
especially when you're
great
talking
point.
about the top offensive line. You're talking about the number 2 defensive line in adjusted sack rate versus I believe Cleveland's in the 20s in offensive adjusted sack rate. So offensive line adjusted sack rate. So Pittsburgh should dominate the line on both sides of the ball.
Mhm.
How does that affect, you think, Nick Chubb, especially? We still saw him get his share. I mean, what I think his snaps were around, you said 80% last week? Is
Yeah,
that?
he was at 81%, which in context, like he was at 63% week 8, 60% in
Yeah.
week 9,
His
and then
snaps are fine.
yeah, his snaps are fine.
Yeah. Like there's no really concern with him. They run a lot of 2 running back sets, either with Kareem blocking or with Kareem lining up at wide receiver, or they did a lot of different things against Buffalo. That's one reason why I prefer, if you are going one of the running backs at the top, to go with Connor. I feel like he's a little bit more versatile. He has the line advantage, but I mean, how do you feel about Chubb as well in terms of captaining him?
I mean, look, any guy in these showdown slates that's receiving volume is going to always make sense in the captain spot.
Yeah.
Like you saw the team that shipped the 49ers Seahawks showdown, it had Chris Carson captain. Chris Carson didn't have like a particularly great game. I don't even think he broke 100 yards, but he had like 80 something yards. He had a touchdown at the end.
No
He had a
receiver went off, and that really helped him.
Yeah, no receiver went off. So it's just like rostering volume in general is how you're going to win these showdown slates. But rostering volume in the captain spot, I'm never going to complain with. I'm never going to have an issue with. So I think Nick Chubb is fine. I love that he still got 4 targets last week. It was pretty cool. Cleveland, I got to give them credit for being fairly creative in their game plan. They did have a lot of interesting packages where they lined up, Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb both in the backfield, or split Kareem Hunt out wide, or lined up Kareem Hunt at fullback. So it's cool that they're trying to get both these guys involved. I think they're definitely playable together in the same lineup. And I think, Nick Chubb's got 20 carries in 3 or 4 straight weeks. Like, you can just lock in 20 touches on a showdown slate. It's never a bad move.
You got a few options in terms of your discount captains here, which we're talking about them just as captains, but then getting into individual matchups. I guess that's a fine way to go here. But I mean, Odell has an interesting matchup. Well, first of all, I'm pretty, he was it Odell or Jarvis that was buy low in the buy low model?
Odell's the number 1 guy on
Yeah.
Josh Hermsmeyer's buy low model. Yeah.
Obviously notable there, worth noting. I mean, that's going to happen when you have 12 targets and come up with 57 yards. Like,
Right.
that's just going to happen. Especially when you just had a matchup with Tre'Davious White, where, I mean, dude, like that guy's incredible. Like just watching them trying to force the ball to Odell, and they just can't do it because White's just so good. He's got a little bit of a softer matchup this week, but these Pittsburgh corners, like I said before, have looked improved. I think really the question is just where do you think that you'll be targeting the Cleveland passing game, where Mayfield, Odell, and then lastly you have Landry. If we just want to bunch them into one kind of discussion here, because Landry's a little bit cheaper than all those guys. He's going to line up in the slot and probably match up with a lot of linebackers in the slot, because we know that Pittsburgh likes to cover those guys with linebackers. Where do you think you'll be attacking the Cleveland passing game the most?
I think a lot of people are going to take this $1,200 discount from Beckham to Landry, and just see that Landry had double-digit targets 3 straight weeks, touchdown in back-to-back weeks. But
Volume,
I think
volume.
absolutely. But for me, I think the Landry regression has hit. I mean, we kept talking about how Landry was this huge touchdown regression candidate. And I think with back-to-back touchdowns in the past 2 games, like, sure, he's due for maybe 1 or 2 more, but I think that's fair. But a guy who's really needing touchdown regression is Odell, and he's 1,200 more. It's not too much more. Odell has only 1 touchdown in 9 games, despite a plethora of end zone targets. He had 168 air yards last week. That was 3rd in the NFL. Obviously, we talked about where he ranks on the buy low model. Yeah, Joe Hayden's been playing awesome recently. Minkah Fitzpatrick has really bolstered the secondary as well. But I'm gonna side with Odell in this spot. I'm gonna just take a stand on Odell over Jarvis for the money, point per dollar wise and overall wise. This Steelers slot defense, I say it in my videos as well that they cover slot receivers with linebackers, but I actually haven't watched any of that. So I can't even tell you that for a fact. All I know is that Cooper Kupp had 0 catches last week. And that's important because he's running the Jarvis Landry role. And
Yeah.
so if anything like that, if any slot defense holds Cooper Kupp to 0 for 0, like I'm just gonna be hesitant to target slot receivers versus them going forward. Not only that, they did shut down Keenan Allen, Tyler Boyd in the 2 games prior. So it's like they've definitely stiffened up their slot coverage. And I think for that reason, all those reasons I should say, I'm gonna go ahead and take that Odell stand for this showdown.
The biggest reason it's an interesting slate for me is because like I'm more interested in the Cleveland pass catching options, but there's still concerns in the Cleveland pass catching options because we know that Baker can kind of create ghost pressure, and Pittsburgh has created a ton of pressure recently on quarterbacks. And obviously, we know that Odell is going to have a deeper A dot than Jarvis Landry in general, and that's going to be concerning in terms of getting the ball to Odell in general against his defense. But like you said, regression is coming for Odell. I mean, no other reason that, the air yards are there. He has 1 touchdown in the year.
Right. Two forms of regression.
In any form, it doesn't even come down to air yards. Any form of regression. I mean, look, you look at Odell's past few years. You look at the targets he's still getting and the snaps he's playing on this offense. It just makes so much sense that at some point, it might not be this week, but Odell is not going to end the season with 1 touchdown. Like he's gonna start getting there. So makes a ton of sense. And one other part of the Cleveland passing offense I think we might have touched on just a little bit ago. Kareem Hunt. I mean, dude got 9 targets last week, like we said, and moved him all over the formation. He played a little bit as a runner, 4 attempts, but got 9 targets. Kareem Hunt. I'm not sure where the ownership is going to be on him, but I think that with those 9 targets, with the name value of Kareem Hunt, with the value of his profile picture on DraftKings, as we talked about, could be very high owned. What do you think about Kareem Hunt? And I know you're going to say you like Kareem Hunt, so do you think that he is a potential viable captain, Kareem Hunt?
Yeah, I think he's a viable captain. I mean, they said they're trying to get him even more involved after already having 4 carries and 9 targets. I watched this whole game because I played the Browns defense in fantasy, so I just had it up on the TV. And Kareem Hunt looked really good. He was really good getting yards after carries, yards after catch. I was impressed. I thought he didn't even look like he had a long layoff from football. So I think getting him more involved, if you can project him to get up to sort of 15 touches a week, maybe anywhere from 8 to 10 targets with 5 or so carries, 5 to 8 carries. I think he makes a ton of sense. I think you can captain him. It might be a little bit thin because like captaining a guy like Kareem Hunt because Kareem Hunt isn't like 3K. He's 5,800. So captaining a guy like Kareem Hunt over captaining a guy like, let's say, Baker or Odell, you're only really getting about, what is that, like $2,500 extra in salary, which doesn't really move you anywhere. Like if you have a kicker, you don't really get up to anyone better. You get up to like, James Washington from a kicker or something like that. It doesn't really move the needle too much. So it might be a little too thin to captain him. But if he has a big game, I mean, sure. I like him overall, man. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I know a way you can attack this Pittsburgh defense is through pass catching running back. So I do think it's not a bad spot for him.
Do you think that Kareem Hunt's target share and the way that he's playing in this offense, and the fact that they could run the offense through these 2 running backs, does it hurt like the value of Odell? Does it hurt the value of Jarvis? I think that makes a little bit of sense. I mean, if you watch that Bills game last week, the way they use these 2 backs and just getting them the ball. I mean, Kareem Hunt, even though he had 9 targets, was still just an extension of the running game. I mean, they gave him targets. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what his air yards would be, but I would guess not too much. So, like, do you think that could potentially hurt the value of a guy like Odell?
Yeah, I mean, I think it could long term for sure. I also think they might just supplement that with more passes for Baker. Like, I think I don't know if it's optimal to have them throw the ball more with Baker Mayfield as opposed to run it with these 2 guys, but I think just to keep everyone happy at this part of the season, I do think they might rely on the pass a little bit more and get everyone their targets. If anything, though, I do think it probably hurts. Like, it'll take a little bit of the target share away from guys like Nick Chubb, the tight ends, maybe Jarvis Landry a little bit. I think Odell is going to start getting his, man. I really do feel strongly about that.
Yeah, so, I think we both feel pretty strongly about Odell in this matchup.
Yeah, even though like this is a tough match. If this was a
No,
main,
yeah, I guess I shouldn't say in the matchup. Yeah,
yeah, if this was a main slate, I wouldn't be going anywhere near.
it's just a matter of this dude's got to get there eventually.
Right. It's just like I love banking on guys that are due for like two forms of regression: yardage
Mhm.
regression, touchdown regression. Like
Yeah.
I love that. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, so he's
We're,
definitely a play.
to the quarterbacks, do we both prefer Baker? I know he's got a little bit of a rushing floor generally. Um, eh, Mason Rudolph is a very, very low A dot guy who typically is going to move the needle too much, but he is, 600 cheaper, which isn't too significant on these showdowns, but it can definitely do some things for you, $600. Do we
Mhm.
both prefer Baker to Mason Rudolph? And do you want to say anything else about those two quarterbacks?
No, I think I would prefer Baker. Like he hasn't been great, but he really hasn't been bad either, man. Like this dude's like you just look through his box scores. Past four box scores, 22, or 13, 17, and 17. It's in play. That's very in play. He had that one horrible game that everyone saw in prime time versus San Francisco, I think. But now that we know what we know about San Francisco, I guess that doesn't come as too much of a surprise. But I honestly, man, Mason Rudolph, like I like both these quarterbacks. I think they're both pretty fairly priced at 9K and
And they're
8.4.
both very fairly priced.
Yeah, so I really don't mind getting exposure to both of them. And I love showdown slates like that because I think the quarterbacks are like objectively like the safest plays on these showdowns and make a lot of sense to have both of them every week.
Yeah. Yeah. No, they 100% do. Smith Schuster and Samuel's obviously very, very GBP heavy. Just going to be pretty much a receiving back at this point with Connor back. Don't need to talk about him much at this price. I would get, even if you're playing 150 lineups, I would not give very much exposure to Samuel's. Smith Schuster, and watch Samuel's going to score 2 touchdowns because I just wrote him off.
I just saw that.
But Smith Schuster is also going to be, I think, probably low owned just because I think people are going to prefer Odell on the winning team, on the projected to win team. They might even prefer Jarvis Landry with that volume. Smith Schuster is going to be a GBP option, especially also in a tough outside cornerbacks matchup for Cleveland. How do you any interest in Juju Smith Schuster? I'm not thinking of him too much as a cash play here.
I actually don't mind him, man, just because I feel like when I'm messing with these builds in my lineup, I'm getting a lot of these pass catches, which I might be wrong in a divisional game to build sort of in the form of a shootout, but like Juju runs over 50% of his routes out of the slot, and this slot cornerback TJ Carey for the Browns has been pretty awful. I mean, he's given up 412 yards, 3 touchdowns on 45 targets, 9.2 yards per attempt. And Juju's running majority of his routes out of the slot. So I definitely don't mind him here. I think the price is kind of fair on him at 8.6K. I don't think.
What was it, like 2 showdowns ago? He was, there he is against Miami where he had that blow up game 10-6. So yeah.
Right, exactly. So it's just like I don't mind him as a cash game play. I think if you're like loading up on Cleveland pass catchers and you're kind of going towards this like shootout with like maybe Kareem Hunt or someone like that, like running it back with Juju makes a lot of sense. And I think I think it might be a little too thin to recommend this, but I think the 2.2, the $2,000 discount from Juju off, or 2.2K discount from James Conner to Juju, poses some questions. If Juju gets his touchdowns, he takes them from James Conner. If Juju gets his yards, he takes them from James Conner. I think that's interesting on a PPR site to see a wide receiver one, even though he hasn't really performed like it, be this low price. I don't mind it. I think he's got a great matchup, and I guess via Vegas they're projected to be trailing, so could make some sense here. And I like you said, I think he'll come in pretty low owned just because of how
play.
Yeah, kind of how gross it feels. I mean, these boundary corners are really what you're trying to avoid. So guys like James Washington and Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson is sick.
Which we haven't talked about. That's the next guys we're going to talk about here. So go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, Greedy Williams and Denzel Ward, since they've come back, have been really, really good. They've been pretty stifling. They've given up less than 50% target to catch completion. Only 1 touchdown on 50 targets. It's pretty solid stuff. Washington's only running about I think he's running a route on
snaps last week, but I'm not sure about routes.
I think he's running 55%. I just saw it. It was like 55% of Mason Rudolph's dropbacks. It isn't horrible, but he's just a little bit expensive. I think I'd prefer a guy like Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, I would like to see Washington at a price around that would be fair, just above the kickers. I think would
Yeah,
make a lot
like
more
if he
sense.
was like Rashard Higgins' price, I'd be more like into it, you know?
Especially in this matchup, man. I really think this game is going to be played a lot on the ground, especially
Yeah,
from the Pittsburgh side. I don't know, man. It just 40 team totals divisional. You're going on a
yeah,
Thursday. You got Mason Rudolph at quarterback. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. It just seems like it's going to be played a lot on the ground.
No, I'm with
Uh,
you. I think these boundary wide receivers for Pittsburgh just are probably the guys I'm least interested in on the
yeah,
slate. Like,
yeah.
I just think they're a little overpriced and a little
Um,
underutilized. So
Vance McDonald is in that same price range. 7 targets over the last 2 weeks in each of the last 2 weeks, and he's got a pretty solid matchup against Cleveland, who has
yeah,
a decent amount of points too. Tight ends this year. Do
tenth
we?
most, tenth most points.
But again, mostly just a GPP option. I think there for both of us, right?
Yeah, I mean he's cool because he's got a lot of touchdown equity. So if you're fading a guy like James Conner or someone, then it would make sense to play Vance McDonald. It's kind of like we were talking about it with the showdown, the Viking showdown, where it's like if you're fading Dalvin Cook, even though Dalvin Cook got there on all those receptions, but he didn't get there on the touchdowns. If you're fading Dalvin Cook, it makes sense to
Yeah,
play a guy like Kyle Rudolph. We saw Kyle Rudolph get those 2 1-yard touchdowns. If you're fading guys with high touchdown equity, it's good to fade him with other guys that have high touchdown equity
yeah,
that can take it from him. And so
right.
that's what Vance McDonald is if you are going to end up fading a guy like James Conner at that price. Maybe he makes some more sense. I mean, they do have – it's a good matchup, 10th most fantasy points at tight end. But
And on the
I
other
think
side of it is negatively correlated to play both, obviously.
– right, absolutely, yeah.
Both defenses that only play in GBP stacked with like a captain running back. Steelers, if you have Connor captain, play Steelers possibly in a GBP. Browns defense play with maybe Chubb captain. But they'll probably just both score touchdowns and score like 15 points. So you're probably gonna need him to bank anything if because it's a showdown slate. So defenses are just gonna
Guaranteed
get there.
touchdown. I mean,
Probably just jam the defenses because they're gonna score.
I mean, honestly, I don't like how similarly priced they are, though. If we're
Yeah,
being honest,
no, well, the Steelers are actually priced higher than the Browns, even though they're dogs on the road.
yeah, I mean,
If the Steelers were like under the Browns and they were like 4.2K right above the kickers, we would be having a really tough discussion right now
yeah,
about
we
the
would.
Steelers defense. We really would.
The Steelers defense, these guys have 2 turnovers in 8 straight games. Like their last 3 games, 4 sacks, 5 sacks, 4 sacks.
All at home, but still.
Yeah, true. They have 3 defensive touchdowns on the year. All 3 have come in the last 4 games since acquiring Minka
God damn, they
Fitzpatrick.
got 5 sacks versus the Colts.
Yeah, man. This D-line, I mean, dude, they've totally flown up the adjusted sack rate chart. Like on Football Outsiders, they're second with 33 sacks and a 10.1% adjusted sack rate to the 49ers. Like the 49ers have been there all year, but Pittsburgh was not there all year. They've flown up with like TJ Watt. And just like, I mean, they're getting a lot of coverage sacks with these guys. So it's like
Those interceptions are pretty sick too. 3-2-2-1-3. Jesus. I mean,
yeah,
Jesus.
they've been great. So I think for the price, like them being so close, if you're gonna play one, it's gonna be the Steelers for me.
I mean, look,
Especially
man, we like the Steelers here. So
yeah, I mean, I
they're
think
copying James Conner.
yeah, I think Steelers +3 makes a lot of sense here. I mean, the Browns could get right at home, but like, what is getting
sure.
right when you're 2-6? Thursday Night Football. Like,
They're 2-6. I don't pay enough attention to teams' records. Honestly, it's crazy.
no, I just saw that they were 2-6. I'm
two
just
and
like, how
six. They're 2-6 and they're favored here.
are they
I don't
2-6?
know, man.
Actually,
I guess that's why I don't work for a
let me look that back up. There's no way they're 2-6.
I'm sure they have 2 or 3 wins. That makes sense to me. 2-6 is too little though. It's week 11.
Yeah, no, I think I read that backwards. I think I read that the Bills are 6-2 and they just played the Bills. Oh, they're 3-6. Excuse me,
3-6.
So
Still,
I mean, I guess
3-6 and favored by 3 points.
Hey,
versus Steelers.
This a bit. I guess this is like randomly a big game for the Browns because the Steelers are 5-4. So I mean, 5-4, you knock your division rivals to 5-5, and you become.
They have to win out to have a chance though, because the
Yeah.
Ravens are winning the division.
Yeah, absolutely, without a doubt. But yeah, I think that's
probably it. What'd you say?
What's left? Kickers?
Kickers. Yeah, so we like the kickers.
Yeah. So we like the kickers.
We like the kickers. It's a Thursday night game. I don't know if there's correlation there. I don't have the stats. I'm not keeping the stats on this, but I do feel like in my head that kickers do have more success on Thursday nights.
Yeah, I mean, this is totally a game where you could see the offensive having – because when I view this game, I actually see paths where the offenses could have success moving the ball, but you could definitely see them stalling out in the red zone. It's like a game that really
Ooh, Austin Seibert is 16 of 16 on the year. Dude, he's a lock. He's a lock. Lock in Austin Seibert, bro. Lock in. Steelers defense. Look, Baker Mayfield's gonna drive him down to the 35-yard line. He's gonna move him down to the 35-yard line. Seibert's gonna set up. Boom. 16 of 16.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, man. They're on like the 25. Steelers defense gets a sack, knocks it from a 40-yard field goal to a 50-yard field goal.
No, that would only happen if I'm fading him. That would only happen if I'm fading him.
Yeah, for sure. But no, I like both these guys.
Yeah,
I like
both
Boswell.
kickers are good plays. Yeah.
But I mean, Boswell's, he's got 4 weeks of double-digit points. That'll fucking play on a showdown slate.
Absolutely.
So it's just like, I'm cool with both kickers here, honestly.
Yeah, we actually regularly grade these guys on the lock sheets, not to give you guys insight or anything, but on DraftKings we regularly grade the kickers as A's, both as A's.
Yeah,
pretty much every single game.
Yeah,
they're pretty much fine in every single lineup you make. Like if they fit, that's fine. You can play.
Yeah, absolutely. They're on close to like 60% of the winning roster, so it's just like. It's just very
defenses too this year. It might be
defenses is just a joke. Like I
don't even know what at this point I don't know what to say about defenses.
I don't know what to say either, man.
There's really no one under the kickers. I feel like we're going pretty long on this video, but we'll mention real quickly Antonio Callaway. I have the snaps up right now. Give me 1 sec. He sat out last week. Before that, he had played 68%, 78% of the snaps. Freddie Kitchens said that Callaway is not going to be sitting out again. It was just a one-time thing. So to get, like we've said over and over again, to get a receiver, to get a player who is a solidified part of the offense, who's going to play, he played 48% of the snaps in the most recent game before his, suspension, if you want to call it that. I don't know what happened, but he sat out. To get a receiver playing 50% of the snaps, like we said, I prefer to play the Cleveland passing game here because I think they're going to pass more than they run here, and they have passed more than they run in the past. I think Callaway makes a little bit of sense here, especially in GPPs. If you haven't watched NFL in the past, Callaway, deep threat, very, very fast guy. Can take the top off the defense type of guy. So anything else to say about Callaway there?
Yeah, he's fine as a shot in the dark. I mean, right. I think that third wide receiver role is really the guy that suffers the most with Kareem Hunt receiving more targets.
Yeah.
It doesn't help Callaway that Rashard Higgins caught the game-winning touchdown last week.
Yeah,
that was his only target, but it was a 7-yard touchdown catch. So it was like, who knows if he may have just lost the position. But I think it's fine I think it's fine as a punt because he is going to get, if he does get targets, it'll be like a long A-dot type of target.
Was Higgins hurt? Or was he just inactive all these weeks?
Who?
Higgins, because he didn't play between week 2 and week 6. He didn't play at all.
I'm pretty sure. Oh, I don't know about week 2 and 6.
Because he had zero.
I don't think he was hurt. That blurb you read right there says Higgins returned to the active roster for the first time in 4 weeks. So I guess he wasn't injured. He just been inactive.
Okay.
I mean, he's been the wide receiver 4, so I guess no real reason to keep him active. Or has he? He might have even been the 5 with Damian Ratley out there, but.
True. But if you're gonna play one of these guys, I would play Callaway, but neither one of them are cash plays.
You could mention Ricky Seals-Jones. He was a full participant in the walkthrough on Wednesday. He's questionable, but he should play. He's an athletic tight end that has touchdowns on the year. He's going to take pretty much all the snaps away from him.
I remember watching this game, and he did have some pretty solid targets in that game, like down the field.
Yeah. I mean, they utilize him. I think these positions definitely do suffer with Kareem Hunt, but it's just worth. I mean, I don't like him more than the kickers at all, right. But it's just worth mentioning, I suppose.
Yeah, kickers over all these guys for sure, especially in cash games. Okay, that's pretty much going to wrap it up. It kind of sucks if we don't have more guys under the kickers, to be honest. I like the slate where we have some tough decisions under the kickers, but in terms of cash games, really no decisions down here. But that's pretty much going to wrap it up. Take a quick Adi stretch. Yeah.
Tired, man. It's
very nice.
It's
not sure how long this video ran. These videos usually run longer than we think. Thank you guys so much for watching. We really appreciate you guys. If you've been coming back, please drop a like. Please hit that subscribe button. Of course, like we've said, hit us with a comment. Hit us with comments on our future NFL videos are coming up this weekend. I'll have a cash game video. Adi will have the GBP video up this weekend. Mm-hmm. And again, thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you guys back here next time.
Peace.
Peace.